And welcome to this episode of the Selling Through Partnering Skills podcast, where I am joined by John Hanson. John is a consultant, speaker, and author. John, hi.
Thank you so much for having me on, Fred. I'm really looking forward to our conversation today.
Well, it was an easy invitation, John, because you said something very flattering to me, and flattery gets you everywhere, as far as I'm concerned. So it's like, right, come on, and let's, keep going. That no, you won't do. But no, when you reached out, you did talk about how partnering skills, it just spoke to you straight away. So I'm going to be very interested in that, and we'll break that down into each of the elements. But can you just give us a little bit more about yourself, a bit of background?
Sure. So last year, I took the leap and went from a side gig to full time in consulting in the customer experience space, and life was looking good. And then, like a lot of people, COVID hit, totally derailed that. But two steps later, two pivots later, I'm sitting in literally the best opportunity of my life as director of business development for several arms. Accelerated revenue is one of those. It's the one I'm most excited about because they allowed me to bring into this company, accelerated revenue, the consulting experience I already had. So I'm looking forward to being a consultant speaker. I've already written one book. A second book is coming out this year. So excited for this opportunity because we plan to elevate business to heroic success. Doesn't matter what size of the business, small to mid-sized companies are our focus as they're 80 to 85% of the US economy. They're everywhere. And they're the ones that are most agile, most lean, where they can see transformational change. Larger organizations have more money, uh, but typically they're going to be harder for there to be any kind of lasting change implemented from a consultant point of view. Speaking, however, love to add value in a public speaking forum. So that's why I say no matter the size, we want to elevate business to heroic success. And heroism basically boils down to two things: the pursuit of a higher purpose and excellence. And I don't know what business doesn't pursue those two, but if they could see that uh, since we were kids, we would take a safety pin and pin on a blanket. Now you're a superhero. It pulls on all of us the idea of heroism, something grander, bigger than ourselves. And certainly companies that would say they pursue excellence. So it's really just a matter of how do you communicate that paradigm to people, to companies, where you realize, no, what you do is heroic. You just need to use the right definitions for that word. And if you can elevate their company to heroism, then you start pulling in that superhuman aspect of us that wants to do more, that aspires for more. And you can connect that to, I don't care if you sell toilet plungers, for an example, right? Have you ever been to somebody else's house and the water starts like coming up? I can't think of a more heroic thing than a plunger sitting right there so you can take care of business, right? Heroism is simply how do you come through and how do you make those things memorable? And I think that could be of any business, any size, any industry. Is small to mid-size, though, can apply the lessons and pivot and adapt and then become that hero to their consumers. So that's what we're most excited about here. It's a fascinating journey that just kicked off literally at the beginning of this month. We have official partners on board where we love how they do business and they complement us so that we can bring massive value when we come into an organization.
Wicked. No, heroes need helpers. That's how I think of it. And I often encourage salespeople to think of the customer as the hero and help them through
Mhm.
the hero's journey. You
Yeah.
use the old monomyth format and become their mentor, sensei, guide, friend, whatever. We have a lot of fun. We sort of pick your favorite story, pick your favorite hero story. Harry
Right.
Potter, Star Wars, Wizard of Oz, whatever. Decide which character you are. Which helper do you want to be? And then everyone just
Yeah.
shouts out movie characters for the rest of the training usually. As they
But
just
that's
think of
that point.
another one, they go, Tin
Right.
Man. Yeah, okay, whatever.
Star Wars, right? The Avengers series. My gosh, just as many adults or as kids are drawn into those storylines because they do pull on us as humans. And you're right. That's that element of if I had that kind of power, I would use it for good to help others. Is what you find that subconsciously pulls at us. It's not so much the stories of good over evil, although that is aligned to it. It's more about if I was in their shoes, what I would do with that kind of power. Well, if you can help people understand in sales, in particular sales, that if you can make someone else the hero and the champion by the solution you're bringing to them, then you will never have a lack of sales, because if you can make it about them and not about you, make them the hero, make them the champion to their company, you're going to have a far easier time. You don't have to worry about features and benefits at that point. It Everybody has features and benefits. The pen writes, okay, great, but how does this pen make us heroic? Well, you either got to have a great story for that, or you in solution selling, which I love that field, and I'm sure you do as well, Fred, because I got to read through those 6 points of partnering. I thought those, I can't think of a better fit for solution selling.
It for me, it's all these the PQ elements. They drive the mindset. They give you the ethos to provide solution selling, consultative selling, value-based selling, all the good bits of selling that have gone from the past. If you understand those, you can use them like your magic elixir, like your magic sword, like your cape, like your invisibility cloak, whatever, to do the right thing at the time to fight that battle, or to help the customer with their battle. So well, without further ado, then let's crack on and break them down. Yeah,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
because I'm really interested on your take on these, and how we can become more of the solution, some of the hero, all the stuff we've just said. Let's start with trust then, because I always start with that one. Just makes most sense to me because it runs through everything. So,
Yes.
how can a salesperson use trust? How can they build trust to get better at what they do?
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that, because I had the ability when I was in B2C sales, insurance of all things, life insurance, tough sell. You often only get one shot at somebody's house. Typically, the lady of the house is more interested, understands the value of preparing for the future. The guy, not so much. Arms crossed, sitting there at the table. You ain't going to sell me like the last 12 people that have been in my house trying to sell me the same thing. But I had the ability to earn trust quickly. And there were several keys to that. One was asking questions, asking well worded questions. Active listening is so important to building trust, because if you come in and essentially vomit the features and benefits that they've heard 5 times before, you've already turned them off. But if you go in asking questions about them, what's important to them, what's going on in their life, why they even agreed to see you in the first place. Well, that was her idea. Either way, you know why you're in the door. If you don't ask those questions, right, you don't know what you're up against. You communicate that it's about them, not about you. But I also think that there's more to it in a complex sales cycle. I think the trust being built, I treat it like a bank account. A trust account is what I call it in one of my books, where you're making a deposit. Every time you say you're going to do something and then you follow through and do it, you're depositing you're depositing trust into an account with them. So eventually you get to the point where they trust you enough where they will spend, they will buy from you. But until then, you are building up this trust account by saying, I'll follow up at this day, this time, and you do. I'll get you this information by this day, this time, and you do. The kind of under promise and over deliver goes right in with that trust. You are building, especially if they've never met you before, the idea that a complex sales cycle, something that has a lot of zeros attached to it, that somebody that just met you for the first time in their lives are going to entrust their reputation and their money to your solution is ludicrous. So salespeople have to understand that while you believe in your product, you believe in your solution, they just met you. You're a stranger to them. As we teach kids, never trust strangers, right? Somehow in sales, we think, oh, because we have the best thing, it's sliced bread. Who doesn't love sliced bread? You'll want some of this. It tastes great. Here you go. Yeah, but I just met you. I'm not going to buy this from you just because you say it's so good. Even if it's a great fit for me, I'm not necessarily going to buy it. So the trust factor is why it's so important to build that up by, first of all, they got an impression of you somehow before they even sat down with you. And if they did, the very first impression in person they got is in the first 30 seconds. So if the first 30 seconds is about you, you've already set the standard, set the bar for, we're going to be talking about me and my solution, and it's definitely going to work for you. Or in the first 30 seconds, you can be asking them, how long have you worked here? What are some challenges? What do you like about what you do here? What are some challenges the company's facing? If the first, you've made it all about them, all about their workspace, all about their life. The solution has got to start with them. Otherwise, you've set the standard of it's about me, it's about my sale, it's about my solution. That's where I think trust is started and then established throughout. And here's where it's really important. After you've made the sale, this is where I think it was really key that I made a point of this, because customer service has been a part of it's been in my blood since I was 16 years old. I've been in customer facing roles. That was infused into my sales experience. So I believed that after the sale was made, the relationship could get even better, because I could ask them, who else do you know that in your circles that could benefit from what we've talked about? But I'm not going to get that until I've earned their trust. A sale does not necessarily equate trust. Could just right time, right place. They had the need, you had the solution. By building that trust beyond that, the best indication you got somebody's trust is if they happily refer others and attach their name to that referral. That means more than the sale necessarily, because now they're giving you a warm intro to somebody else. If you can get repeat and referral sales, you will never lack for breaking records, because you're shortening your sales cycle. Every time you get a warm intro, they're attaching their name and reputation to who you're going to talk to. So trust is important, especially when, and I say this multiple times, it's written in my book, especially proven when things don't go the way they're supposed to. That's when you add a huge amount of trust. You think, yeah, but you just made a giant withdrawal. You said that you had this great product, blah, 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 and then something didn't happen the way it was supposed to. Here's the thing. It's just like professional teams that are like 16-0, right? And they've got a 17-game season. They're waiting for the other shoe to drop. They're waiting for something to not go right. The pressure keg that is around a perfect, no mistake season is unbelievably ridiculous. It's almost a relief. They found over and over again, if you're a one-loss team, you got one loss under your belt, it's more of a relief. Same with customers. They are expecting something to not go right sometime in that sales process, during the sale, after the sale, before the sale. It's how we respond in those times when things don't go the way they should, that either engender more trust or totally wipe out our bank account and they're done with us. So I say that you need to view when things don't go the way they're supposed to, you need to view that as an opportunity to prove that you will do whatever it takes within reason to keep that relationship strong. What was the solution? How responsive were you? When things go wrong and you can't get a hold of the sales guy, it automatically communicates the fact that it wasn't about you, it was about the sale. But when things don't go right and the guy's right on the phone, email, I'll work this, I'll see if we have some solutions for you, and I'll be back to you by this day, this time. That, and then you follow through. That engenders more trust than the ones that just had a shiny pen that they needed at the time, writes well, and they never hear from you again. And you never hear from them again. That's not going to engender trust or a relationship. And it's not as a partnership. You should definitely see in solution selling your customer as a partner. You can see them like that, as opposed to a blank check and I just got to get them to sign that check. You can see it as a partnership, as a relationship that's ongoing. Because here's what happens nowadays, especially. Most people do not stay in their role for their whole life. They're in a career step for like 2, 3, maybe 5 years at the most. They usually stay in their field though. So if they go to another company and it's still in your dirt, in your territory, guess what? If you've built the relationship with them and they go to a place that needs what you have, guess what you have? Practically an automatic sale. You've kept the relationship going. They leave that company to go to a better opportunity. That company needs what you just provided to them. Easy sale, because you've built the relationship. They have trust with you. You followed through when you said you would. When their hair's on fire, you bring the fire extinguisher.
Perfect. Yeah, Steve Dent, the guy who really researched partnering skills and sort of put these 6 elements out there and validated, verified, as he says, organizations don't partner, people do.
Yes.
It's such an elegant phrase, that, because they have these elements, in abundance. That element of trust you talked about really elegantly there. So what about win-win? 'Cause you've been actually touching on it while you're talking about trust, because it's actually difficult not to, I think.
Right.
But just very specifically win-win, what can we do consciously to be more focused on that?
It's interesting you say that because Zendesk had a global survey 2019 pre-COVID that said that it was like, I'm going to misquote I think it was 1,400 companies in 140 countries. It could have been even 4,000, but it was a staggering number of countries worldwide. And it said that the number one reason why customers would make purchasing decisions in the next 5 to 10 years at that time was going to be not brand recognition and not price, but know, like, and trust relationships. I think COVID has accelerated that, where I think we're coming out into that marketplace, combined with this huge element too, Fred, and we talked about this briefly, of for the first time in modern history, the predominant number of consumers and employees are millennials or younger. It's shifted away from the baby boomers being the majority. There's still a ton of them, but the majority now is millennial and younger. And I even fall into that category because I'm obviously younger than a baby boomer. So Gen Xers also fit in that category of kind of a bridge between baby boomers and millennials. But you're going to find that Gen Xers like me, where we remember what it was before this massive technology explosion, and we really appreciate what it is now because we can compare. We're going to shift and gravitate more towards the millennial side of things. The millennials and the Gen Zs and all that, they're already there. They were raised with it. They don't know any different. But they do know that relationships matter. As much as baby boomers give them grief for always being on their digital device, right? Oh, they're always texting, always on their phone. You know what that is? That's relationships. I said this too in our brief conversation, Fred, was proximity does not equal relationship. So I've lived next to our next door neighbors for 8 years, and I know their names, but I don't know their kids' names. I don't know their grandkids' names, but I do know that of some people on the other side of the world, Africa, Asia, Australia, because I have a relationship with them. I know them. I regularly interact with them. So if your company isn't regularly interacting on a platform that they're used to, then you're missing out on a relationship. So how does this factor into win-win? Win-win, particularly in sales, it goes way beyond just me and the person signing the check. Actually, you would know this, Fred, from your background in sales. The person signing the check is often different than the person that we're talking to most of the time. The decision maker that signs the check is another step, usually above, that has to sign the check based on what our internal hero or champion says to sell them on it, or if we get a chance to pitch to them to sell them on it. But win-win goes far beyond that relationship. As that survey showed, it's know, like, and trust. Well, why is a consumer going to know you? First of all, you've got to get over that biggest challenge is lack of awareness. In a global marketplace, there are so many options. If you're not on enough digital platforms where people can find you, that's why podcasting is so big. That's why if you're not on multiple social media channels, they can't even know you. But then to like you, here's the like to trust. That's the bridge that you've really got to cross. How do you get to, we already talked about trust, but the like and trust part, it's that win-win. Win-win is not just about you got my solution, it made your life better. It's also about, okay, if I'm going to help this company, does this company take care of its employees? Is this company active in the community? Those things matter. So when a consumer is looking at, all right, John, you say you've got a solution for me. Well, what does your company do? How does your company take care of its people? How does your company take care of the community that it's a part of? Is it involved? Is it doing things? We can find out real quick here on digital media, and more customers are going to be doing this. If they have a choice of especially a major purchase, they would choose for it to go to a company that does take good care of its employees and is active in the community at large than a company that doesn't. And especially if it's a very similar price point, very similar solution, branding to them does not matter. And this is a thing that people have to remember. While you may have this Cadillac of brands, and I'm not using that brand in particular, but you can have this great brand that's had they don't care how long it's been in the marketplace. You could have been in the marketplace 200 years. They don't give a crap. If it's been in the market 2 years, they will gravitate towards the one that takes the very best care. So when you're saying win-win, you're talking about stakeholders, you're talking about the community at large, not just the two of you sitting down at the table. And that's where win-win has a power of, when you're talking about partnering or collaboration, how can you, and that's why I'm so excited about our holistic consulting model, because we're going into an organization, we do 3 pieces of the 10 to 12 pieces. We just do 3 of them. We quarterback the whole process, so it's fully integrated. But the other partners that we're bringing in, they're experts in their own space. So we're bringing in this fractional expertise, bringing it all to bear to whatever the company wants to focus on that fits their goals, that fits their budget. They'll get cost-saving partners, they'll get revenue-generating partners, they'll get process improvement partners, they'll get customer experience partners. They'll get all access to all of that. And so what we're doing is we're bringing in this massive value to them so that it's win-win. We help companies in how they do business grow. We help ourselves grow. We help the company grow so they can take the best care of their employees and their community and their customers. Everybody wins. It's a positive sum game. Everybody benefits. And I think also, this is one big piece I found last year, Fred, on win-win. It's also a mindset thing. And you'll pick this up really quick when you're sitting across from someone. Do they have a scarcity mindset or an abundance mindset? And you'll find this in sales all the time. If they have a scarcity mindset, it's like, I'll use this word picture example. If you have bowls of food, dog food, you put it in front of 7 old dogs, they're going to take their time, enjoy their food, and not care about the other 6. Now, take those same 7 bowls of food and put it in front of 7 puppy dogs. Chaos. Why is that? Because they want all of theirs and all of everybody else's. Even though we know, and the old dogs know, I'm going to eat again, and I can't eat all of that. As much as I'd like to, I can't eat all of that. Puppies don't know the difference to that. That's scarcity versus abundance. Abundance says the pie is so enormously large. Even if I got a bigger sliver of it, it would be more than I could handle. That's how big this global marketplace is and the opportunities out there. So rather than trying to get the whole pie for myself, which is the scarcity model in sales, I got to get as much as I can and take it from the other guy. I got to get his piece. Instead, it says, if I get this much of the pie out of this ginormous thing, I'm going to have a really good career. So let's focus on making this slice the very best it can possibly be. And not only that, if there's someone also in sales that we're very complementary to each other, let's partner up so I can help them grow their sales and they can help me grow their sales, because together we have what's called synergy, energy combined, where we will know more people, be able to help more people, and grow each other's businesses more effectively than if I just focus on making my slice as big as possible. Because you know this, everyone cannot be your customer. No matter how large you get, everyone simply cannot be Amazon's customer. They don't have the space or the bandwidth for it. I know that seems shocking, but everybody in the world cannot be Amazon's customer. It's not possible. Scale that down to a company actually of a reasonable size. Everybody simply cannot be your customer. So who are your ideal customers? And that's where the win-win piece comes in, of collaborating with others so that you grow your business, they grow their business, and together the slices that you bring in, you'll obviously accomplish more. I think that's where win-win is often missed. You talk about partnering up and collaboration. You can collaborate with somebody on the other side of the world nowadays, easily, far easier than you used to be. Rather than take a 13-hour one-way flight, spend some time, fly back. That's how many days out of your schedule. In some elements, I still think that's there. Public speaking in front of a live audience has more impact than a virtual. On the other hand, virtual trainings and virtual presentations, it means in the course of a week, you can provide that much more value. So both have their place. I don't think the in-person is going away, but I think for coaching, I think for idea generation, I think even for consulting, if the ideas work, you can impact more people and more businesses if the bulk of it is virtual, and then a slice that makes the most sense is in person.
Agree 100%. And funny enough, it's exactly how I'm setting myself up now to do more. I used to love sitting on planes. Well, no,
I
actually,
enjoy flying
sitting on
too.
planes is really boring. I used to like getting off planes somewhere interesting.
Yes,
That's
I
more what I
like
actually
to fly.
liked.
I'm raised that way too. I love to fly. I get a lot of thinking time. I get writing time, a reading time. But you're right. That the time that the travel's costing you, unless it's a really key important opportunity, you can get a lot more done virtually. Yep.
That's interesting. It's interesting. Let's thinking about what you talk about there. So we talk about trust, about win-win. You're actually talking, as you're talking about win-win, about interdependence as well. In that my success is going to be based on your success. And actually,
Yes.
if we deliberately set up for that, well, what a better way to operate? It's no longer are we so sort of solitary? And
Yes.
salespeople can be fairly independent. When they shift their brain to become interdependent, um, big shift. But I want to move
Yes.
this on actually, because I'm very, very interested in all of your thoughts on these. But this part of self-disclosure and feedback. Now, this is
Hmm.
an area that was identified as being important in partnering skills, about
Yes.
giving a bit of ourselves, about giving feedback to others. Again, thoughts on that, please, John.
Yeah. Yeah. Self-disclosure. It's almost like so much of the old school always be closing model was about acting, about posing, about not being genuine, but playing a role. As a matter of fact, they have training that was role playing of like, we're going to pretend. So you can practice. It's good to practice, but I feel like this is a personal opinion. The less rehearsed I was going into a place, because I have a structure, I know my product in and out. They don't need to know that. What I need to find out is what's most important to them. That of my product, of my solution, of my service. The self-disclosure part, I think it's if they want to know about me, they can ask me. But in a sales cycle, uh, it should be predominantly about them. The self-disclosure part, where I see it as, you, I feel it's like on a genuine side of things, where rather than posing and acting and making stuff up as you go, it's far better to be transparent. It's far better to be honest about things. Of, all right, so they know I'm in here to make a sale. Why am I in here to make a sale? And that will come through. I think part of the reason why I had success was because I was fascinated with industrial automation. I thought it was so cool. The idea of like these factories where thousands of separate items come in one side of the building, and a high quality car rolls out literally the other side of the building 900 times a day. The processes that go into that just blew my mind, because I'm thinking about all the moving parts that have to come together for that to happen well so many times a day. I was just fascinated with that world. And for whatever I was going to be providing, to be a piece of that was really cool. So they could tell not only did I believe in the quality of the solution, but I was interested. I was fascinated by it. That part of ourselves has to come through. Now I know you'd be like, yeah, John, but I sell, electrical boxes or something that's just not sexy at all. Okay, but to the person you're selling, this is their life. So if you're choosing to sell it, then you need to figure out how can that part of self-disclosure is being genuine. If the person sitting across from you is genuinely concerned for your well-being, genuinely concerned for your success, then I think that comes through. If, on the other hand, they feel like you're a poser, they feel like you're a car salesman, they feel like you're fake, you're not disclosing self. You're just there to sell. Also, the feedback portion. I think this is also a really good key of, too often, I don't know, because they're afraid of the answer they're going to get, they don't ask for feedback. They feedback from the people on the front lines internally, uh, employees, voice of employee or voice of customer. They're not asking for feedback. And if we don't ask it, then we don't know. It's left up to assumptions, which are super dangerous. So along with being honest and transparent, not to a fault, I I was around salespeople, been around them where they're honest to a fault. And what I mean by that is they end up talking too much, they end up talking about themselves too much, and they end up revealing that actually removes trust from the buyer. The buyer's like, ooh, I'm not sure that I want to do business. I could see it in their body language. I could see it in their face. The more the person talked, the more the sale became less and less of an option because they already had expressed buying signals and I want to move forward. And then the person kept talking. So don't over disclose. That's one caution I throw in there about being yourself. Don't, I've seen that too often where somehow or other they're still in trying to sell and they end up talking themselves out of the sale
Yeah.
because it becomes too much about them. And then the
No,
feedback
definitely.
part,
No,
yeah,
you can see that, and you know they've heard, yeah, authenticity is a big word around at the moment, isn't it? And you know people are going in and sort of saying a lot of stuff about themselves, and there are people who are just like, I don't care. Yeah, that's just their personal style. It's just that, you know, we're here to make a decision on the widgets that we want to buy. I don't
yeah,
need to know all this stuff. It's just not relevant. Because that's
yes,
how their brain works. It's just it's not making a bad person. It's just I don't see why you're telling me all this stuff. I don't need it. You know,
right,
let's talk about the widgets. Let's get this done. Move on. Next. I'm happy. You know, I don't think you're bad for not telling me. I don't think you're good for not telling me. It's just I need to do this stuff. That's just how their brain works, isn't
yeah.
it?
You have
So
part of a skill is people skills. People
absolutely, yeah.
skills of you might be that same person, but if you don't adjust based off of what they're giving you, where you need to be able to read what kind of a person is this? Do they want the details? Do they want their questions answered because they're skeptical? Are they emotive? Are they relationship based? They want to tell you about their family. Like you got to follow all these clues because if you don't, you could end up totally souring the relationship in the very first call, and then it's an uphill battle, not likely to be won anyways. So the part about self-disclosure, yeah, you have to come across to them in the way that's fits their personality.
Mm.
You're right. I got
That's it.
they like
That's it.
asking them like, how much time have you got? You know, that would be good to know because if they're going to spend 10 minutes talking about them and their family, and that's important to them, great. You know, you got to invest that in that 30 minutes. But if they got 30 minutes, the clock's ticking. You better tell me about the features and benefits, how it's going to help my processes, and then I got to ask you the questions so that you can give me detailed answers because I need to know, is this going to work or not? Because if it's not going to work, I got another sales guy lined up that's going to tell me about his features and benefits. You've got to know the personality of the person you're talking to. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
And I love the way you said invest the time because some
Yeah.
people just can't get it. I had a big discussion with somebody last week about this. Like, oh, it's just not relevant. I said, if for that person it is, you've
Yes.
got to do it. Invest the time.
Yes.
They're like, oh no, you just get straight to it. Otherwise, you're wasting time. So okay, well, you will find it very difficult. It's for them. They need it. You know.
Yes.
But okay,
Yes.
let's keep going. Let's keep going
Okay.
because change, comfort with change. Now then, there's a biggie. We've been talking about change a little bit anyway. We started off talking about it, but
Yes.
yeah, talk to me about that one.
Yeah. Change is one of those things that, ah, in sales in particular, the salespeople don't like change. They don't like a new CRM. They don't like a new way you have to roll it out. They don't like new standards. They don't like new benchmarks. They don't like new performance marks that are tied to their bonus or making money. Uh, humans just don't like change by nature, don't like change. However, the ones that are the most flexible, and you don't have to be in sales to appreciate this, the ones that, particularly when the decisions are beyond their ability or authority to influence, it came down from higher above, this is just the way it is. The sooner you can say, all right, it changed. What do I need to do to fit this into my processes, my time? So to give you an example, I set my first full year in B2B sales and industrial automation. I set records for my territory over people that had experience in industrial automation and had experience in B2B sales. And it's because I had a game plan. I worked the game plan. I built relationships. I used social media. I did all that stuff. I added value. I under promised and over delivered. I followed through. I totally believed in our solutions. And then two of our major product lines said, we're going direct. We aren't going to have salespeople of a distributor represent us. We're going to take it directly with our own salespeople. Everyone's sales dropped by 40%. 40% across the board. Well, that impacts the company's revenue. That impacts the salesperson's revenue. And here's where here's where I saw how the company looked at change. And rather than embracing the change, they decided to focus more on the ones they still had, meaning that they had product lines, but these product lines were a tougher sell. They not as sexy, not as interesting, took a lot more work, longer sales cycle, and those companies were pressing for big wins. They didn't want little sales, they wanted big wins that could translate into companies where you could get it in multiple places. I understand if you want market share and you want high dollars, of course, those big wins are what you're after. The problem with that is that the big wins take even longer to land. So if the bulk of your time is going to big wins that don't come through, you've lost all that time to put into the smaller ones that add up to still a decent year. So here's the comfort with change. It's going to happen. It's going to happen beyond your control quite often. How you pivot with that proves that you're either going to go into people have two typical responses to stressful situations. Change it feels stressful. Fight or flight. The ones that fight it are the ones that are kicking and screaming, I'm not going to do this. And so that causes friction that way. And the ones that follow that person, it just causes internal strife. Or the flight, the ones that are like, they're just resigned to their fate of like, my year's shot. Or you have the people in the middle that respond in a healthy way of like, this sucks, I don't like it, but you know what? I can't change that. So how do I adapt my plan to fit this in and still bring value to my company, to my customers, and to the goals I had? It's going to take probably more work because I got a learning curve to get through. I got to change something. But the ones that are flexible, the ones that understand change is going to happen, some of it I can affect, some of it I can't. Those are the ones that are going to be able to make the most of the changes that come, because they'll simply adapt their goals, adapt their plan to make it fit, rather than running from it and just giving up or fighting against it. Either way, it's lost time. If you fight against it, you're losing time where you could be learning about it and implementing it. If you're running from it, you're just giving up. It's only a matter of time before you go on to the next opportunity, because they're probably going to run into the same thing at another place. Because if your typical response to change is to shrink from it, or to not like it, or to blame your lack of success on the change, then you won't succeed in sales anywhere.
Yeah, it has your orientation towards future, which is again the last element. Is getting all so interrelated, but those two you can clearly see that it's like, okay, change is going to happen. I'm going to keep having to adapt. If I move it forward, and if I keep looking forward, how many people have you met that in the good old days, when we could go and visit people, okay, well, you can't now. Stop saying when we could. You can't.
Yes,
it's getting a bit boring, to be honest. Which sounds a bit harsh, and maybe I should be a bit more sensitive, but you can't. And if you keep waiting till it goes back to like it was, well, good luck. Hey. But I don't know.
I'm laughing with you because I feel the same way. Like, okay, but you can't. It's not even
used
reality.
To do it like this. Great.
Yeah.
Good for them. And it was great then and wonderful. And like I said, I used to like traveling and all the rest of it, but we got to look a bit different for our own future. But so yeah, just on that then, let's start to wrap this up a little bit. Yeah, talk to me about where are you going, your future? I mean, you mentioned already you're into this role now, excited about helping customers be heroes, or what's that going to entail? Let's give us a little bit more on that.
Gosh, it is so exciting because on several levels. Number one, the future, with major disruption comes major opportunity for the ones that embrace the change and see where is the market going. Fascinating in-person seminar I got to attend on disruption. I attended it pre-COVID by a PhD. She had a PhD it wasn't in disruption, but that was one of the key things she talked on. And she said at the beginning of the century, in 1900, a company could reinvent itself every 75 years. By the 1980s, that had shrunk to every 15 years. She said, turn of the century now, it's about every 5. So to give an example of what that means without the disruptors like COVID, it means on the upward growth curve, if you're not figuring out how do we reinvent, even if our solution is somewhat timeless, how do we reinvent the delivery of it? How do we reinvent the marketing of it? If you're not figuring that on the up curve of growth and you get to the bell curve, the top, she said, if you get to the slight decline edge of that, she said, companies survive that 10% of the time. So, and we see this disruption happen all the time. Like Blockbuster knew Netflix was coming, but they didn't take it seriously. We've got all different kinds of ideas of big box stores here. The point is, and there's companies that see this, like fintech is coming in and invading typical bank space. The brick and mortar banks are seeing this kind of disruption happening, right? So what that meant was if only 10% survive when it gets to that part of the curve, when times are good is when you should be planning what's coming next. If your company, another great book that I recommend is How the Mighty Fall by Jim Collins. He wrote books like Good to Great and Built to Last, heavy on research, but How the Mighty Fall. It tracked basically there's 5 stages for any company. And if they get to stage 4, it's no matter what you do, you can't right the ship. The company's done for. It gets to stage 5 where you're done. And I don't remember the names of those 5 stages, but it's a small book that got a lot packed into it. Stage 3 is the tipping point. At stage 3, it's savable because when it gets to stage 4, which is desperation, I remember that. Desperation is where they'll do anything. It's like a fire sale. They're trying everything they possibly can to avoid going under, and they're still going to go under. You could see it. How do you avoid getting to stage 3? Well, stage 2 is where you're constantly trying to figure out what's working, what's not working, and adjusting so that you can stay in stage 1 or stage 2. Stage 3, if you get there, it's still fixable. So the future orientation of things is, and combined with this disruption class that I took, was to understand that disruption is going to happen. Now, in this case, COVID disrupted a lot of companies, not their choice. But if self-disruption is already part of your model, then it just means this was a bigger disruption than you were planning for. However, the companies that get stuck in ruts, the good old days, we just talked about this, right? It's worked. It's always worked. There will come a point in time where it doesn't work or somebody else's works far better. And you're going to be relegated to survival mode or you're going to be done. It feels sad when you see companies that have been in business 20, 30, 50 years and they go under. But if they went under because what they had no longer was needed, that's just part of the marketplace. But if it was needed and they still went under, it meant they didn't disrupt themselves to prepare for what changed in the marketplace. They didn't see what was coming. They didn't see what was happening. They didn't adjust accordingly. So part of this future orientation is, while you need to be doing the very best job you can with what you have in front of you, you also have to have an eye to the future of where is it going. It's changing so fast nowadays. If you've got to reinvent how you do something or how you deliver it every 5 years, that's not a lot of time for any size company. So while it's a real challenge. How do you do the very best job with what's in front of you right now without getting distracted by what's coming in the future? And then how do you kind of figure out and adjust to meet the best you can what you know is coming in 3 to 5 years? But the companies that have that in their strategy, that know that disruption is a part of it, that they're used to that. It's part of their culture. It's kind of baked in. So they know that disruption is going to happen. They know the future is not going to be the same as the present, and they're fine with that. They know that there's going to be things changing. The ones that are like hearkening back to the good old days, those companies are going to go under because you keep hearkening back to the good old days. The good old days are the pace of change is so fast and will continue to speed up as we get more and more global. Good old days mean you already relegated yourself to either survival mode or going under. You can't camp out. John Maxwell said, what got you here won't get you there. As soon as you camp out on your success, and he wrote that, gosh, that was like 20 years ago. That was before the turn of the century when disruption sped up even more. If you camp on today's success, that's the greatest danger to companies. What's working today? If you say, got it, we figured out the winning recipe, let's just keep doing this. No. Yes, work that. Then also figure out, all right, what's next? What do we need to be adjusting to? Because if you don't, you're going to go the way of the dodo.
Exactly. Wow. You've shared a lot of stuff with us, John, loads and loads of stuff. And I know there's more. I know there's more. And well, you've told me because you're working on other books. So how do people get in touch with you if they want to sort of talk more, if they need elevating to heroic success? I'm sure we all do, but how can they get in touch?
So many ways. And I worked intentionally hard at this. Believe it or not, when I started B2B sales, I had heard of LinkedIn and never used it. Once I saw the power of this platform, I was like, I have got to leverage this. So I worked hard to grow it to where now I have a LinkedIn family of over 23,000. I have a total social media of over 30,000 because I believe that the more I can add value in the space and help others succeed to have the same values as I've got, that's how everybody wins. So LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. LinkedIn is the major one that I use, obviously the most, that people can find me there. All different ways you can contact me there. Our website just launched. Love the work that was done on this by a local company. Accelerated Revenue is the name of the company, and the website is accrev.com. And on there, there's all different kinds of ways you can check out who we are and what's important to us and ways to contact us. So accrev.com. That's accelerated revenue shortened to those two words. That and LinkedIn, two best ways to get a hold of me. I actually have conversations more internationally on LinkedIn, but I love that platform. I think it's phenomenal.
Yeah, it's a good one. That's where we came across each other.
That's
So,
right. Yes. Yeah.
That's good. So I'll pop that link into the show notes. But that's so kind of you to spend some time talking and sharing your thoughts. Really good stuff in there. I was looking at my notes here and thinking about these old dogs. The old dogs are going to teach the new dogs tricks by the sounds of it. That's what I liked out of that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm showing my age. But
old dogs
no.
never learn new tricks. Or you can teach old tricks to new dogs.
There's so many dog analogies on this.
Yeah.
But no, that's cool. Thank you so much, John. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you, Fred. Greatly enjoyed it. Thank you for having me on.
Cheers.